Welcome to the Lazy Money Machine podcast with Erik ten Have and who's on the other side?
Graham. Is that some Dutch techno you got going there?
No, it's not, but it's I bought this actually. So hey. It's nice and happy music to start the day. It's still daylight in Jakarta. I'm so glad that finally we get to record during daylight someday because it's always so dark over here. So not today. Today's it's clear and daylight out, and with you too in the UK, I think.
Yeah,
cool.
Make hay while the sun shines, as they say. So let's make some hay. What have you got?
Let's make some hay. So okay, let's see. Today again we have some audio, which I dug up from the internet, and let's listen to it.
What does money mean to you?
Paper blood.
Paper?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I've never been really a money type of guy. I put a great emphasis on it. You know, I never really, I come very, from a broke background. So I never really had great emphasis. I never really learned the art of handling money as a kid. You know, that's an art. That's why only a few people maintain it, because it's an art, and I never possessed it at that time.
Okay, so first question, of course, is who is this, Graham?
I reckon that sounds like 50 Cent.
No.
Who is it?
Mike Tyson.
Oh, was it? No, it's not Mike Tyson.
Definitely Mike Tyson.
No, he doesn't have a lisp.
I saw the tattoo. It's definitely him.
Is it?
Yeah. So this is one part of the interview that I want to talk about, and there's a few more clips.
That's his second feature on our podcast.
It is. Right? It's his second time, but this time I found more in-depth content, so I thought it was worth revisiting him. So I'm going to play the second clip right away. There's a few more minutes of interview that I would like to play. So this is the second clip.
Months after you got out of prison, $4.5 million on automobiles and motorcycles. You have automobiles to 15 women, 2 men. Once crashed your Rolls Royce and told cops to keep it. Spend $240,000 monthly in just walking around money. Nearly $100,000 a month on jewelry and clothing. More than $400,000 on Pigeons and Cats, $300,000 on lawn care, a house with 38 bathrooms. To what extent did it almost seem, or did you think that just the money would never run out?
I don't know. That's just how I live my life. You know, when I was living my life back then, that's just wow, that's even hard. When you mention things, wow, that's even hard. I don't even fathom that. I don't even think I'm that kind of guy. I don't even ever considering having money like that anymore.
I mean, does that seem like a lot to you now, and it didn't then? Or
that's just what's my ex-life. That's just how I live my life. That's my addictive personality. You know what I mean? That's a lot of things. That's my ego. That's so many other things. That stems from pretty much, you know. For me being poor, never having anything. For me being bitter, angry for being in prison. It stems from a lot of things.
With regards to money, you've gone from being fabulously wealthy to at one point basically losing it all. What has the peaks and valleys of that allowed you to learn about money?
It was an interesting art in possessing it. I just was a young kid having fun.
So, what's interesting to me on this one is that all the facts are being laid out for him, and still he doesn't really have a clear-cut answer on, you know, how it was to possess all that money, why he spent all the stuff that he spent, and then secondly, why, you know, when it was all over, how he feels about it now. Interesting.
Go back to was that bit where he said $400,000 a month on Pigeons and Cats?
That's right.
Well, what the hell is that?
Right.
What kind of expenditure is that? I mean, how can you spend money? I know you can spend money on cats, but Pigeons and Cats.
Yeah, and then $250,000 walk around money per month, right? So that's for for partying and for other things that he did.
Right. Yeah, no, it's incredible, isn't it? You know what? I mean, the thing about Mike Tyson is I've seen his recent media stuff, and he's got a sense of perspective which he didn't have from before it all went wrong, before he was jailed and before he went bankrupt and so on.
Right.
So I think he has learned something. But, yeah, I mean, that whole thing about he grew up poor, therefore he didn't understand money, that's interesting, isn't it? I don't think that's an excuse, because we've seen plenty of people who had financial nous they had the education, even though they weren't educated in the traditional sense. Why do people like that end up like that?
Yeah, so somehow in his case, he just went with the roller coaster, I think, of making a lot, spending a lot. And he never sort of put the handbrake on and found somebody to assist him in, caring for his future. Because he basically really lost it all. And he's still, he lives, from what I understand from the interview, a pretty, calm life at the moment. Not having that much money to spend. So he's really not where he was with hundreds of millions in the bank, in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah. And surrounded by better people. I don't know exactly what the details were, but that example where a girlfriend or a wife or scratched a Rolls Royce and told the police to keep it or something like that.
It was in this clip. Yeah, basically he crashed the Rolls Royce and he told the police, "Okay, keep it." And he bought 14, cars for women. It's like that's a car, in over maybe a year or something, or 2 years. I don't know. So
it shows you how important it is surrounding yourself with the right people. I know we keep banging on about this, but if you were to surround yourself with the wrong people, I can't imagine what people were the hangers-on in Mike Tyson's posse. Yeah, you can imagine that they were not good for him, though, and they kind of exaggerated this lifestyle.
Yes. And I think to a certain extent, maybe if you roll into this amount of money from poor upbringings, then all of a sudden you think, I need to adopt this lifestyle of the multimillionaires and, spend it on the things that these guys spend on, like, lavish parties. And so I think it's just sort of you fall into money, especially in this entertainment industry. Then you are falling into this circle of friends that are in the same situation. And then they all spend and they all party and they all create these lavish events that you then become part of. I think it's you get sort of sucked into it, I guess. Right.
And that means you get into a situation where you could end up bankrupt even though you earn over $600 million in your life, right? Which is what Mike Tyson did. And that's the incredible fact, isn't it? That somebody can go bankrupt despite earning that kind of money.
Yeah.
And then we sort of compare that, and now we keep bringing him up, but somebody like Arnold Schwarzenegger is a flip side of that, right? Who, came from maybe a similar kind of background, not privileged, not educated, but early on got into real estate and probably earned significantly less than Tyson, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think, certain guys figure it out, certain, celebrities don't. There's a last part of the interview which we can listen to.
Do these figures sound correct? Made around $400 million during your career?
I don't know. It could have been.
Yet end up spending more than you made, and at one point were like $50 million in debt?
Yeah, that was amazing too. But
how does that happen?
Just being reckless and young and foolish and stuff, and really not caring.
Was it not caring or not having the sort of, we talked yesterday about role models and having the support system.
I never had a good support system, right. So what I normally, I can't really blame anybody, even though you got to have carry the weight of a fool by yourself. Other people contribute, but I blame everything on myself, It's not like I've been sucking. I had a good time too.
Sure, and that's obviously the responsible thing to say, but do you, ever wonder how things might have been different if you had that support system like the one you're giving your kids now?
I don't know. I'm just happy the way I am now, I guess. I'm pretty content.
Yeah, so that's what he mentioned. Yeah, that he doesn't have a support system around him to help him manage all of this.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. The role models thing's important as well, isn't it? Because then I know with Tyson, he grew up without, a good father figure, and he found the father figure in his trainer, didn't he? And that was the story. The trainer became his replacement father figure.
Yeah, his mother and his father were in prostitution, I think.
Yeah. They were low-life scum, really.
Right.
So he didn't really have much to play with, and I guess he was surrounded by people who, growing up in that area, surrounded by people who were drug dealers and pimps and so on. So that kind of lifestyle was what he saw as the role model. Whether you accept it or not, you absorb this stuff, right? You see these role models as people you aspire to subconsciously. So I think he was imprinted with that early on.
So what can we do if we don't have a role model in our lives to teach us to be responsible with money?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Eric. What are the sources? Where can you find? I mean, do books, for example, count as role models? So could you read a book by somebody and read about somebody's life? Does a role model have to be real in your life, or could it be somebody who's out there that maybe you don't know personally?
Well, I think the last option is definitely there. I think it can be books, it can be training programs online, probably. But I think that it starts with yourself, right? So you need to identify that there's a gap in what you know and what you need to know. And you have to find a way to bridge that gap by finding a mentor or somebody that is further down the line than you are, and try to either get support from them or model after them, right? That's also possible. You can model after, Jack Welch, or you can model after Tony Robbins. Or if you think that their lives are what you want, you can go and become like them by modeling them, right?
I've always found that better than modeling, or better than role models, better than mentoring, because I've done mentoring at the receiving end of mentoring. Better than that, I found just hanging out with people who are in a way role models. Even if you don't see them as mentors, they're people who inspire you. People who push you. I find that's really important, because I've found, I don't know, I mean, we may be different on this, but I've found that I've done mentoring and it wasn't really effective to me. But that may be a personal thing, right? But I found what's really powerful is just hanging around with people who have thought, wow, I'm really impressed by what you've done. That has had a positive effect on me.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine that. And maybe I'm a bit more of the, how do you say it? I'm searching maybe more for learning opportunities in that sense, that I'm trying to find, okay, what's the knowledge or the skill that I'm missing? And then I try to find a way to learn that quickly. And, fortunately, I've been brought up in a situation whereby I think both my parents were pretty responsible with money. So I was never very lavish with the money that I made. But it could have been differently, and then I think I would have had to find somebody that would be better at that than I was, and try to get their help in some way. Right? It can be self-study, or it can be reading, or like you said, just find supportive people that help you be on the right path.
And going back to that Tyson thing, you're talking about being lavish with money. This is something that is a key theme in my life as well. It's not being lavish with money, but the whole idea of people spending money as a sign of success.
Right.
I'm constantly having these battles internally that, even though I have money, I sometimes find if I go to a place like traveling around Asia, I will refuse to spend $2 or $3 on a cup of coffee, because I know that it's way more than the locals pay for it. Right. So that kind of attitude, it's ingrained in me, that sort of attitude towards money, and I will lavish on the stuff that is important, like on my family.
Right.
And the experiences. But I think, there's that pressure, isn't there? Like with Tyson, is to go out and lavish money on everything to show that you are successful and somehow that you're important in that world, right? And that's a dangerous pressure.
Yeah, and I think the way you are living, it also reduces the pressure of having to have more and more, right?
Right.
And
stress, right?
Yeah, the stress of always having to have more. I think if you live, within your means, or at least, you're not overspending on what you make, then I think you live a lot more relaxed and a lot more comfortable, because you have buffers and you have, before the whole thing falls apart, a lot needs to happen, basically. While if you're spending on the limit, then you're always in stress. Am I going to make the equation next month again?
Right.
So I hope there were some lessons from Mike Tyson and from Graham Brown. We'll see you guys in the next episode.